Okay, Equal Employment Opportunity Act, the EEOC, is based on Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. I'm not going to go through all the language. It's here and it's right off of the letter. But it was put out April 25th of this year, 2012. And basically the whole thing, and I mean, you know, we've got all of this, why they needed to update it, what is the new guidance. It is telling employers you cannot, out of hand, deny employment or fire somebody when you find out they're an ex-offender, and you can't deny them a job just because they're an ex-offender. It's violating Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. You have to have a reason that you can't keep that person on. In other words, you're a daycare center. You cannot have a sex offender working in a daycare center because that's in direct violation of what they need to do. That example. If you are retail and that person was sent to prison for stealing, that has a direct relationship on having access to a cash register or money. Then you can say, no, I can't hire that offender. But you can't say all offenders, unless there's a direct relationship to their offense and what your company does.
Nancy, can I just add, can you go back to that other slide? So the second small bullet point, people must bring their complaints to the EEOC or a state or local civil human rights agency.
Yes.
And so some counties in Colorado have these human rights agencies, including my husband, Darius Smith, in Denver County. And you can bring these complaints to that local level. What they can do is mediate with that employer or follow up with that employer to let them know about these new guidelines. And one of the reasons why it's falling under the EEOC is because they have determined that because people of color, particularly Black and Latino, and Native American, have they're the ones who are being disproportionately impacted. So there's a disparate impact on these populations. And these are protected classes under federal law. So hence why they came out with these guidelines to say it's felonies, and the people who disproportionately have felonies are people of color, and that's permanently creating an underclass of people just by virtue of them having a felony.
And there's a strong argument for that, and I've got that in here, something similar to that in here. Okay, so we did
in the Wellington web
go through the EEOC. The update is important because employment does play an important role in the reentry process for 700,000 individuals returning home from prison and millions of individuals cycling through local jails each year. And that's not Colorado, that's across the country. At a current incarceration rate, 1 in 17 white men, 1 in 6 Hispanic men, and 1 in 3 African American men are expected to serve time in prison during their lifetime. So you can see the disproportionate way that this is broke down. I did not have any access and couldn't find any figures where I was looking on Native Americans, and I was thinking of that because I've met your husband, Lisa, and I couldn't find it. Also, I work with a number of Native American men who have been incarcerated. I'll tell you one of the huge reasons why people, well, not why, I wouldn't say that, but here's what happens. Overwhelmingly, you will find when you're working with ex-offenders, if they have a disability, it's probably a mental illness. Because instead of our judicial system treating people for mental illness, they incarcerate them. It's just that simple. So that's why that you will find a disproportionate number of people who have been incarcerated have mental illness versus the rest of the population. It's because a person who's mentally ill is not capable oftentimes of judging their behavior, and they get arrested and prosecuted, and their mental illness is never considered or never asked. Even the public defender never asks, do you have a mental illness? It's just not done. So you're going to find that is also there I have some, actually I have another PowerPoint on talking about the significance of mental illness and incarceration. So, EEOC basically is also stating that denying a person employment because they're an offender de facto, in other words, it results in racism, pure and simple. It doesn't mean that that was your intent, but that is the impact, and here's the stats that prove it.